In a new age of Watchmen, a team of individuals, pooling their talents and abilities, come together to bring analysis, reaction, and comedy to the fold. This is their chronicle. This is Accounting Arc.
Hey, all right. Welcome, everyone. Here again with another ARC interview of non-traditional accountants and Rubik. I'm so glad you and I got to work together for several years when I was in Houston, and I was always amazed with what you do. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you actually do?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Rubik Yeriazarian. I have my own forensic and data consulting practice called Flat Fee Consulting. I'm in Houston, Texas. So on the forensic side, I mainly help small to mid-sized business owners who think someone's stealing from their business. Sometimes it could be an employee theft. Sometimes it's a business owner who might be a minority owner who thinks they're not getting the full story from the other owners, and they're trying to just get a better understanding as to why profits or distributions are down. Then on the data consulting side, I mainly help other accounting firms by offering Excel-based CPE courses for continuing education and Excel-based dashboards. So helping accounting staff be more efficient when they're handling their client data, and then also helping firms get more meaningful data and key performance indicators out of their own practice management systems when they're evaluating their staff.
Wow, that's a lot of different things. And did you start off as in accounting? Are you an accountant? Do you consider yourself an accountant, or what do you? What's kind of your path? How'd you come to do this?
Yeah, so I do consider myself an accountant. Definitely don't consider myself one of the more traditional accountants. I have worked at all different sizes of accounting firms. I started in Big Four, then I went to a small, about 5-person boutique firm. Then after that, I was at a mid-market firm, and then that firm was acquired by a top 10 firm. And eventually I decided, you know what, let me do this on my own.
Cool. What made you decide? So, because I know a lot of people are like, especially in school, right? It's like, oh, I should work for a Big Four, or and now I always tell them, you should not just Big Four. You should consider working at one of the large firms, because you get exposure to a lot of stuff. But you've gone through all the different sizes of firms. Do you see any positives or negatives of working in different sizes of firms?
Yeah, honestly, every firm I was at was extremely valuable for me for the time I was there. So starting in Big Four was essential for me because back when I was in college, Big Four were the only firms that offered forensic accounting, really. And so that I knew that was my ticket in. If I wanted to start my career in forensic accounting, I had to go target Big Four firms with forensic practices. And, it's really interesting when you compare a lot of things when you're going from firm to firm. At Big Four, I was dealing with a certain type of client, and you have a lot of support or staff. When I went from there to a boutique firm where it was 5 people, I was super busy. We had lots of clients. I was still dealing with complex matters, but you really can't hide, so you kind of go from figuring stuff out early in your career within a Big Four firm where you're still learning a lot to where, being thrown to the wolves in a boutique firm where you have to figure it out. You can't, there might not be someone else there who is going to be able to take something off your plate or help you with something, so it was a really different contrast there. But I feel like, I had some friends questioning when I jumped from a very known firm name to a no name, 5-person shop. But for me, that's where I really I felt like I got 10 years of experience within 5 years of time, because I had a lot of work, was working a lot of hours, but it was really sharpening that accounting skill set, which had I stayed in Big Four, that wouldn't have happened at the same rate.
Oh, interesting. So value definitely in the smaller firm there. And were you an accounting major in college? What did you do there?
I was, yeah. So I did one of the 5-year accounting programs. So I was ready to sit for my CPA exam once I graduated.
Cool. But you're doing all this data and other stuff. So how did you come to do that? Were you an IT double major or
No, honestly, it all started with a lot of Googling how do you blank in Excel, you know. So
really?
as I was at in Big Four, you know, we were presented with certain situations and I would start to think, man, there's got to be a better way to do this, or there's got to be a formula or something, and just a lot of learning as I kind of went along. And then eventually I started to realize, hey, the internet has a lot of information for people who want to learn how to do things in Excel. And I started to see it paying dividends where colleagues would see like, oh, wow, Rubik put together this workbook, or hey, I didn't realize you were going to be able to finish that task so quickly. But it was because I invested a little bit of the time to learn a better way to do things. And so that's something that really stuck with me throughout my career. And I always try to teach down to other staff that I work with. You know, there's always a better way to do things, and you're not going to know it all when you come out of college. You can know a little bit, but you're going to keep, you know, building on those initial data building blocks, and eventually you're going to be a lot better where you were than where you were when you started your career.
Totally agree with you on that. And I didn't realize actually that was your background. So I did
Mhm.
something very similar in the beginning as well. I actually am formally trained on the IT side. But I was at same thing. I was getting called to do a lot of analytics stuff just because I could work with I did both Microsoft Access databases and Excel to be able to create the work papers effectively or ingest the data and be able to identify stuff and then I would embed that within the audits that I was involved in at the time.
Mhm.
How did you come to do forensics? And did you start with forensics right out of school with Big Four?
I did, yeah. So when I got to college, you know, I was in a student organization and I'd go to their organization meetings and someone would talk about audit or tax or industry roles, and none of them really got me excited. And my sophomore year, I remember I was in my accounting information systems class and two forensic accountants from KPMG came and spoke to my class, and I immediately was hooked. And I was like, okay, I got to figure out how to get in forensic. I need to meet these, you know, keep in touch with these KPMG people. And essentially, I kept harassing a lot of people from KPMG, or you could call it networking, and kind of corralled my way into an internship. And they didn't have they weren't really recruiting for forensic only, but what the recruiter ended up saying was, look, you know, you've met a lot of people at KPMG, a lot of people like you, apply for an audit internship, and we'll try to get you a forensic rotation. So really, my first opportunity was going that more traditional path of an audit internship, but you know they were giving me a chance on the forensic side there. So I did 5 weeks of audit work, 2 weeks of forensic. I hated the audit work. Fortunately, I enjoyed the forensic work, and you know they gave me an offer, and you know the rest is history. But I don't know if I'd be an accountant today if I didn't get into forensic, you know, coming out of college.
Nice. Nice. Uh, that actually, I think that's really cool. And I like also too how you talked about, you get exposure to different things, you got to think things through, and that's a great example of using an internship to validate what you like or don't like. So I don't because for me as well, when I was starting out, I did a couple of internships actually. So kind of got to test and try a lot of different things and really and that's actually, as I think about it, that's how actually I got into it was Big Eight or Big Six at the time, actually, into one of those firms and continued on. So what made you decide to want to start your own firm? Because I don't think a lot of people realize that, a lot of times as accountants, we're also founders and we start our own firms, and that's one of the nice things. What made you decide to start your own firm?
Yeah, so I felt like I developed a lot of skills, you know, over the past years in all these different types of firms. And one thing I always realized was forensic is a very value-based business line. And this goes for other advisory services as well. So contrasting that with more traditional, say, audit tax practices, when you look at forensic, it can be very different. You know, a good example, you know, when I'm doing forensic work, a client comes to me, they have a problem, they need me, they want to work with me, they want their problem solved. And they're very happy to see me. They're on the forensic side, they're not happy that they have to talk to a forensic accountant, but they're happy that I'm helping them solve their problem. On the audit tax side, it's more compliance based. It's recurring work, but the client may see it as more of a, hey, I have to do this every year. So for me, I saw that, well, the way that the clients are different in a traditional audit tax practice versus my kind of advisory work. But it's hard for firms that I was working at to become accustomed to non-traditional ways to price engagements, to measure the value of engagements, and to measure the effectiveness of the team. So I really like value billing. So for instance, if I say, hey, I'm going to do this project for you for X dollars, if it takes me an hour, if it takes me 10 hours or 100 hours, I'm going to charge X dollars. I don't like to charge by a billable rate, but that's the main measure that most firms have been used to for, over 100 years, in accounting. So one of the big drivers for me wanting to go on my own was saying, you know what, I feel like I can do some of these forensic and data related tasks quicker and faster and better than some of my peers. And I can really excel if I do this in my own firm because I can control how I bill. I can control the types of clients I take and really betting on myself to say, I'm going to find the kind of clients who I can perform the type of work for that I'm the best at, that I can do the best. So I'm not going to do audit tax work. And I'm going to bet on myself that I'm going to do it super efficiently to where if I had to go back and compute an hourly rate, it's going to be much higher than it was if I was just billing them hourly.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And do you find that do you have more, well, I'm kind of assuming you didn't have work-life balance when you were with a bigger firm, but do you find that you have work-life balance now, or are you working a lot more, a lot less? What's it like?
Yeah, I mean, I'm working less because I can control what I take on, so that's what's great. And also I can take projects on where I know, hey, I might work really hard for 1 week of the month, but I can earn enough revenue to cover that month, so that wasn't possible working for a firm where, you have more pressure to take on or figure out how to take on all the clients that come in, but then also you have all the other firm administrative tasks to deal with meetings and mentoring and a lot of other things. Some of it's simple. It's administrative tasks like your billing and time entry, which when I went off on my own, I simplified a lot of that. So that takes a lot off my day-to-day as well. But on average now, I'd say I typically work about 25, 30 hours a week on the forensic and data side, which is nice because that frees up more time for me to work on some of my other ventures, like some of my creative outlets and other things that I like to do in my spare time.
Ooh, that's a good bridge because I was going to figure out how to ask you about your creative stuff. So I'm glad you asked me that. So tell us, do you mind sharing a little more what you do on the creative side?
Yeah, so I started making accounting themed greeting cards back in I think 2018, 2019. So the firm I was at had like a craft fair where they said, hey, bring in, it was in October, November, and they said, hey, bring in some crafty stuff that you do. Some people had baked goods, some people had, crafts that they made, and we were going to sell them in the firm to other, firm employees. So I said, you know what? I've always been interested in greeting cards. Like I'm the guy that's going to go sit at the greeting card aisle and find the perfect card and really appreciate those corniest puns that are on there. And I thought, I can make an accounting themed greeting card. Let me make an accounting themed holiday card. Christmas was around the corner. So I designed it, printed out 20 copies, and said, let me see if I can sell these at the firm. And if I can, then I'll try to, expand this. So I sold out of my 20 copies and, I was kind of motivated there and said, you know what, let me figure out how to turn this into a business. So I started my own Etsy shop and eventually my own website. So it started as just greeting cards, but then I also wrote an accounting children's book. That kind of started when
I didn't know
I
you
had
did
my
that.
first son in 2017, and I was reading a lot of children's books and said, I think I can write one of these. They're really short. Some of them are 10 to 20 pages tops. And I really wanted to make it accounting oriented to fill in all my accounting jokes and puns. So in 2020, I published my first book. So between the cards and the books, I created a company called Rubik Creative, Rubik. And so I call it creative accounting in a non-fraudulent way. That's my slogan for the business there.
I love that tie back into fraud and forensics. That is so cool. And I have seen some of your cards, so they definitely are funny. That's why I wanted to make sure we brought them in to the
Thank you.
conversation here, because I feel like everyone thinks, oh, accountants, you just work with numbers, you do all this stuff, but they don't realize that a lot of us have these very creative outlets, and it's not creative accounting, but it's definitely other talents that we bring in. If someone were to follow in the footsteps, or wanted to have maybe not exactly the same career path, but wanted to end up doing what you do, what's your advice to them?
So one, just really talk to a lot of people that are in, my field or other fields as well. It helps you narrow down if you really are interested in forensic accounting or whatever area of accounting you think you like. Like you said before, internships really help you experience whether you like something, but also if you don't like something. So, I'd say the first step is join a student organization where you can meet other professionals in different areas and learn about different areas. And through that, you develop that opportunity for mentorship. I have a lot of college students who I met from giving a presentation, and they say, "Hey, I'm interested in forensic accounting. Can I ask you some questions?" And it turns into a lot more conversations, and I can really give them a lot more detail, more so than I can give them in a 30 to 45 minute, classroom or student organization presentation. So I'd say the easiest thing you can do is, join a student organization where you have the opportunity to meet other accountants in different areas and make the most of that. Connect with them on LinkedIn, get their emails. Don't be shy about asking them questions where we want to help out. We want to be able to talk to students and give them some of our advice and experiences.
Nice, nice. I'm going to shift the conversation a little, because part of what um, we believe accountants are, and not just accountants, it's everyone in accounting, um, is that we're all agents of transformation, and we're really helping to enact some changes in the world. And so with that, I'm curious if with your work you've ever felt like you've saved the day for your clients, and or when were you like a hero for your clients? Can you share I'm sure actually with what you do, there's multiple ones. Can you share maybe an example or two?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say with any forensic matter, the client comes to you and something happened and they're losing sleep over it. So, what happens is someone they trusted is betraying them. They're stealing from them. It could be a really long time trusted employee, a business partner. So, I feel like I'm able to help my clients get through a time of uncertainty and help them get through a problem that they've never had to solve on their own. If you have a client that says, "Oh, I deal with fraud all the time, I know what I'm doing here," they're not going to be in business very long. Forensic issues should be an anomaly and something that clients only have to deal with one time. They learn their lesson and they're able to work with other accountants to help implement better controls and processes to mitigate the risk of additional fraud or fraudulent type of activity. So one of the most egregious frauds that I worked on was when I was at a prior firm. A client came to us and said, "Hey, we had seen something suspicious in what one of our employees was doing. We confronted them about it, and they admitted to stealing about $40,000 and that they were going to pay it back." So the client said, "You know what? I want to hire a forensic accountant to dig in and make sure, is there anything else?" And so we were hired, we looked into it, and at the end of the day, we found over $3 million of provable fraud over a 10-year period.
Oh my God.
And they were wanting to just pay back 40,000 and say, "Okay, well, hey, let me keep working here," because they knew, hey, I'm stealing a lot more money, and they haven't noticed it. They've only noticed this 40,000. But, for a lot of businesses, if someone is stealing that much money, it's gonna hurt somewhere, whether it's the owner's compensation taking the hit, you having to lay off employees, people not getting raises, or maybe even you have to increase your prices to, maintain your profits. So your customers or clients are the ones that are getting hurt there. So once you cut that fraud out, you're improving all those situations of all those people that your business impacts going forward.
Wow. I actually never thought about it that way. That is the amount of people, and in the end, the community that's impacted by fraud, it's much bigger than just the business itself. Wow.
Yeah.
And so considering on this kind of hero theme, like what do you think makes for a real life superhero?
I think anyone has the potential to be a superhero, as long as when someone is at their, darkest hour of their time of biggest need, that you can step in and help them. I know in Houston a couple of years ago, we had a big freeze event in February, and a lot of people's pipes were bursting. No one's used to dealing with that. So plumbers were the superheroes of the year, in Houston, Texas in February of, was it 2021? Plumbers were the superheroes, so everyone can be a superhero. For me, yeah, I mean, I can feel like when a client's very grateful, I can be an accounting superhero, but anyone has the potential to be a superhero as well.
Well, I like that you tied earlier at the center, we call it the peace of mind. That's one of the things we deliver to clients. And I think a lot of people think superhero, wow, you gotta kind of go out there and stop the crime and do things. But I don't think we realize enough how much just giving someone that peace of mind. Oh, and you may not even have solved it yet, but I've hired you, and it's like, okay, now I don't need to worry about this because Rubik's gonna figure it out, and we'll get this straightened out. So I love that part of it. If you were a superhero, what's your superpower?
Well, I think you just kind of touched on it there. I feel like having the ability to instill that confidence in clients that their problem is going to get solved, that's the biggest thing you can do. So before even getting into, I wouldn't say my superpower is being good at Excel or with spreadsheets or with data. None of that matters if the client doesn't hire you and believe that you're going to help them through that really tough time they're facing. So there's a lot of soft skills that are crucial, in accounting that a lot of people may not think about. But how you communicate your abilities and how you communicate the solution to the problem you're solving is just as important as, the actual work you're doing.
I love that you're bringing communication and soft skills into this because I think a lot of times, and I know when I was going through college, I was like, speech, why do I have to take a speech class? Like, this is ridiculous. But it was required for our accounting major. And now that I'm actually working in it, I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah, because we really got to figure out how do you communicate this in the right way, whether it's for an audit opinion. Well, now I do advisory work just like you because I'm same thing here. I'm like, advisory work is so much more rewarding because they actually want you in there and you're helping them improve stuff or giving them peace of mind, like you say. But the whole communication, I think that's so important. Let's flip it. So if this building of confidence and being able to help the clients is your superpower, what is your kryptonite? What's your kind of critical vulnerability?
So if a client comes to me with a bunch of boxes of paper records, that's going to be my kryptonite. I greatly prefer information that's either digital or can be digitized. But I've definitely had some clients that say, hey, we got some boxes out in storage we can ship over to you. We've got all our invoices and printed ledgers and stuff. And I'm just like, oh man, this is really slowing things down. So if once I see that, that's something I always ask on the front end, when I'm trying to scope out some work for a client, just to make sure how much is digital, how much is not digital. Because the more that's printed and physical records, that's gonna hurt.
I like that. I've always said that one of the benefits of the pandemic is that more things are digital now, so that as technologists, we can access them and get that data, even if it's just a PDF, because I can extract that data from that PDF.
Right.
You've shared so much with us. I'm really thankful for that. If anyone listening is interested, like you said, like talk about you, talk about topics some more, learn some more about what you do. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Find me on LinkedIn. There aren't a lot of Rubiks on LinkedIn, especially once you start typing Rubik, Yeri, then you're gonna find me. connect with me. Just include a note if you want. Say, hey, I heard about you on the podcast. Would love to talk about forensic accounting. Always like to. I've connected with a lot of students or young professionals, through LinkedIn, and been able to, chat with them either through messaging or set up a time to have a call and help answer any questions they have.
That's so great that you're so willing to. And that's one of the things I also love about our profession is that so many of us are just willing to invest that time in the students. And even if it's not someone that's in your area, I know all of us are like, well, you know what? You might actually enjoy this other thing. And here's someone you can talk to. So just making that initial connection point is always so important there. Well, Rubik, I really want to thank you again, because I know also that fraud and forensics is considered one of these sexy areas in accounting. And I think you've given us a really, realistic picture. That's what I really like about what you shared, because everything that you said, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And it applies not just to really big businesses, but also to small businesses. So thanks again for coming on and for sharing your story with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Donny.
All right, for all of you out there, I hope you will come and check out our other podcast episode. We've got other non-traditional accountants that we featured. You'll find these as bonus episodes throughout the podcast. And in our regular episodes, we actually deconstruct some of the other types of issues we deal with in accounting. So come check us out, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode here.
The Center for Accounting Transformation provides business professionals with a network for utilizing innovations that are ready for adoption, the training and resources necessary to apply those innovations, and an opportunity to engage the talent and community needed to further the pursuit of innovative accounting practices that drive responsible and mindful business performance. Find out more at our website, www.improvetheworld.net. And if you're interested in sharing your own transformation stories, please contact us there.